Welcome, everyone. Here's our social media hashtag. Please make sure to take pictures, post hashtag. Let's see, give me a second here. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the Esports Symposium. My name is Moses Montejano. I will be your moderator tech for the Esports Symposium session. So I'm here to provide virtual support for both you and the presenter during the presentation. Should you have any questions or need assistance with the Zoom interface, you can use the chat icon in the toolbar on the bottom of your screen, search for moderator and send a direct private message. I'll do my best to provide assistance and resolve any of your problems or concerns. So today's session is the Ecosystem of Esports, and our facilitators are Alicia Gallegos Butters, Mishan Hochter Thompson, and Pam Rabin. I'll go ahead and pass it on over to you.
Great. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome. So glad that you could make this session. And first of all, I just want to take a moment to introduce myself and the team that is here. So my name is Alicia Gallegos Butters, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Director of Educational Technology at the San Diego County Office of Ed. My co-presenter is Dr. Mishan Thompson. She is a coordinator in educational technology. And my other co-presenter is Pamela Rabin, and she is a project specialist in educational technology. So we are all from the San Diego County Office of Ed. And today we're going to be starting talking about esports and really our ecosystem that goes along with it. So please feel free. It looks like we're a pretty small group. There's about 9 of us here that are from the outside world. Please feel free to stop us if you have questions, ask questions, and you could put them in the chat or you could just unmute yourself. I'd really like to be informal. And please know we are also kind of charting our path. We're not experts in esports, but it's something at the county office that we're really interested in. And we've been working really diligently to make it about San Diego County. So the objectives of today are to really talk about what are the San Diego County Office of Ed's objectives of esports. Why do we believe it's important to our students in the San Diego County? What is our ecosystem and how we put this together? We just didn't want it to be a standalone program. And where do we plan to go from here? And it's actually changed in the years of COVID, or in the 9 months of COVID. So I do want to talk about where we're. So we have about an hour to get through it. And again, please feel free to stop and ask questions. And, you know, we may not have the answers, but we could tell you what our experiences have been. And Pam and Mishan, anything you two would like to add on to objectives or thoughts or anything?
Just that it's been a learning curve for us as well, but it's been a fun and exciting learning curve. Definitely an area that we all have an interest in, and I know my own kids are getting more and more interested in it too as they learn more. So
that's very true. It has been a learning curve. So I'll just give you some background of how we got started. So about 2 years ago, my boss, Patrick Gittishwabungal, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Innovation at the San Diego County Office of Ed, he came to me and he's like, Alicia, what do you think of esports? And I'm like, Patrick, I really don't. I don't think of esports. I don't know anything really about esports. I mean, I'm a kid of the 80s. I used to go to arcades. I'd play Centipede, Frogger, Galactica, those games. And we had an Atari. We used to play Pong at our house. But competitive gaming, I really didn't know anything about. Well, I started researching it, and I found it was good for students. It was really good for students. And then I had some meetings with Kevin Brown and NASAF, and I found out it wasn't just good for students, it was actually great for students. And I hopped on board pretty quickly after that. And from there, we really wanted to decide sorry, I'm skipping ahead. As I was we really wanted to decide at the County Office of Ed, what are our objectives and what do we want to do? And basically, we wanted to support all of San Diego County schools who were starting a team and who were wanting to play in a league. That was what we wanted to do. That started this. Very simple. And so we ended up just people. And so here's the definition. We told people what the definition of esports is because people didn't really know. And we wanted them to understand, you know, this is the definition and this is what it is. And then we started talking to some partners. And along the way, I met a teacher at Helix, also a teacher. She's one of Pam's teachers, who is, or Pam's daughter's teachers at Helix. And she started talking to me about some of the positives of esports. And her name's Angelique Giannis. And she was telling me it improved communication skills and her students were really into coming to school and there was teamwork and it had extracurricular activities. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. I want to do this. So we started putting together an ecosystem and we started building out goals even more. And so we decided we wanted to build an esport league. We wanted to make sure our students were engaged. We wanted to integrate in esports into the curriculum into schools. We at the county wanted to offer support and we wanted to offer tournaments. So that was kind of how we started. And this is a picture of one of our very first tournaments that we held last year. And it was a League of Legends tournament. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But a little San Diego County don't know, we, like Riverside, are a large county. We have 42 school districts, 43 if you count our juvenile court and community schools that we support. Plus we have, like all of you, have numerous private schools, charter schools. So we have a lot of teachers, students, parents, community members that we support throughout San Diego County. Any questions so far? Am I making sense? Some non-communication, give me thumbs up. Yeah, you're getting it. Yeah, you believe things. Okay. All right. So we also started seeing that there was a connection between esports and scholarships. We wanted to really capitalize on that. And we realized there were over 100 universities in California or in United States that were giving scholarships to students. And that's huge. And we were really good about that. So that became another part of why we wanted to promote esports. So all of these things just started adding up. Like, why wouldn't we promote it, right? But what we wanted to make sure if we did it, because we are academic, we put together an ecosystem. And what we decided to do is we just didn't want it to be about esports only, because any club could do that, but we wanted to make it bigger. We wanted it to be part of the school culture, wanted it to be part of the community. We wanted it to be part of households so parents would think fondly about it. And so we started thinking about what are all these components that could go into esports. And we put together this systems approach. And we just started brainstorming. So we knew curriculum was part of it. We knew that having events would be part of it. We knew that there was going to be a lot of professional learning. There was an after school program component of this. College was huge. Whole school integration was big. Parents support was huge. Esport regional labs was going to be big. We wanted to present at conferences. We wanted pathways. We wanted mentorships, all sorts of stuff. And we started thinking, how could esports provide all of that within San Diego County? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we started making, and we haven't gotten all of these things done yet because we've only been at this for about a year now. But I'm going to talk about the ones that we have and really how we're doing it. And a lot of these things we wouldn't be able to do without the partnerships that we've made along the way. So I'll talk about those partnerships also. And that's going to be a huge part if you're just starting an ecosystem, or if you're thinking about doing something like this within your district or within a, you want to think about who can you partner with in the community and who's already doing it well, so you can kind of latch onto them and say, help us and teach us and show us, because that's a really big part about it, because nobody's an expert in all of these fields. Any questions about this? In your ecosystem for your school or your district or your county may look very different. This is just what worked for us, and you'll see some of them we still haven't really fleshed out as much. We're still the thought process. Okay. All right. So I do want to show you our, and this was kind of like an easy lift for us, was our tournaments. And that was our first real, if you look at our ecosystem here, the events was one that we could do, and the tournaments was one that we could do. So that was one. Show this video, which will, it kind of showcases, and it does show one of our partners, Mr. Kevin Brown, and he is in this video. So just start this, all of us.
In esports, which is short for electronic sport, really not about the game itself. It really promotes that idea of strategic thinking, different skills.
I used to I couldn't focus at all. Like if I was listening to a teacher talk, I would zone, and then I wouldn't understand what they were saying. But what gaming has done for me, there's something called the flow, mainly all about focus and how you can focus on something.
It's not just activity of looking at a game and using your thumbs to make on the screen. The research points to how the brain changes, how the brain adapts to situations, how problem-solving skills, how quick pivoting in the moment of clutch while you're playing a game come into play that mimic what we're doing class, in a statistics class or in a science class. More than that, though, I think much like in a classroom environment, video games now are teaching a social emotional learning content where kids are having to, instead of being the one really cool guy who can do something on his or her own, need to be part of a club. So they're performing as part of a team, just like they have to in class projects.
For example, League of Legends game where you have to think all the time, 24/7 thinking, strategizing, communicating with your teammates, everyone agrees to the plan, and then executing the plan. It builds relationships between you and your team members. It thinks on your feet, and it just helps you react better.
There's a lot of people that like to think that they could carry the whole team by themselves, but those are the people who usually do bad throughout the whole game. I never really talked to people in school. I was usually really shy. And then one of my best friends from 7th grade, he told me to come and tell him and to join since there were one player down. And I don't really know because I'm really nervous, and I really do nervous right now. So it's a brother and brother bond, or brother or sister if there's any girls. Yeah.
Even though half the amount of gamers are girls, I think as a woman it's not culturally acceptable to be a gamer just yet. I think it's becoming better. I've always loved gaming since I was really young. Before becoming a teacher, I would play games all the time, and then I became an English teacher, and I felt like there was just a need for it.
We are actually doing an all-girls event on December 20th here at the Microsoft store in Fashion Valley, and it's going to be on Minecraft, and it's specifically for girls. On November 1st, showcase event to really demonstrate the power of esports, because it's really about teamwork, collaboration, competition. I'm an old school gamer, and so I really believe that, you know, gaming is a goal to really help engage kids. You know, we want to make sure that it's a safe place for our kids to really participate in this activity. Any way we can help promote, support, you know, provide guidance to our district is what we want to do. Esports, which is short for like.
Sorry about that. So apologies if my video is a little choppy. I do need high school students in school right now. So can you give me a thumb up if you can hear me and see anything? Am I choppy? Okay, thanks, Jane. I appreciate that. Okay, so tournaments was really our first for to it, and our thought was if we did tournaments, then that would get people excited, and they would want to do a team. And it was actually, this was last year, and I have to tell you, it was pretty darn easy to set up within a few days, the information out there. We had about, I could only, because it was admission, I could only have teams, and we had 7 teams and a wait list. So tournaments were really easy. It was great because we partnered with the Microsoft store, which unfortunately is no longer around. But again, partnerships that you want to make. We also did a tournament at the San Diego County Office of Ed, and they set it up for us. We transformed one of our auditoriums, and it worked really nicely. This past October, I did a virtual tournament, and did 2 in one day. I did Minecraft in the morning, and then the team did Overwatch in the afternoon. And what I could say, my learn from that is don't do 2 games in one day. It was a lot. However, the kids really loved it. And again, we did not think that we were going to get people. I was ready to cancel this tournament because with everything going on with COVID, I'm like, nobody's going to show up. It was like, kind of like, wah, wah, wah. Like, nobody's going to come to my party. Oh. So I was like, nobody's going to come to my party. But it ended up, we had over 150 students at this tournament. And that was just word of mouth. I didn't do a lot of advertising. My team didn't do a lot of advertising, but people just started finding out. And it was so successful. And the students did not care that it wasn't perfect. They were just like, can we play? One student even called me out because I said it was going to go till 4, but we were down 3. And he's like, hey, you said we were going to go till 4. And I'm like, I know, but the game's over. And so they just want to play, you know, they just, so that was really one of the best things that we had ever done to kind of get interest in it again. And that was completely online. I conducted it from my home. My team conducted it from their home. Pam's daughter was a judge for some of the Minecraft. It was just really a great event. So again, the ecosystem for us started with tournaments. Any questions about that? Okay. All right. And then with the tournaments, the things that you really need to think about are the opportunities, like how long is it going to be, the bracketing, location, more females, and games. And so that's kind of the things that kind of went through our mind when we were thinking about these esports. and that part. And then you want to think about that tournament structure and all of that. So I'm sure that if anybody has more questions about that, we can go over those as well. All right, then the next thing, once we kind of started thinking about tournaments, we actually started thinking about how SDCOE could help our schools and our districts come up with their teams. And so, because once people started hearing about the tournament, our established teams were fine. They were doing the tournaments. But other teams, other schools who were like, how do we get involved in this? We want to be part of this. So we started helping them get set up. And I'll be honest with you, if it weren't for NASAF, this is where those partnerships come in, I would have been lost. Kevin became kind of my go-to person to help set people up. And so we started conducting meetings and talking about esports and what did they need to do to sign up, and here are the games. And I would go out to their sites, my team would go out to their sites, and we would talk to them about it. And it became a lot of talk. So people were concerned, especially schools that, they were like, we hate esports. We're trying to get our students off of it. And so we had to kind of let people know what the other side of esports was, and let them know that it was going to bring students together in a really positive way. So we started setting up clubs and teams across San Diego County. Any questions about this? And this was very first teachers that was like, sign me up, I'll do it. And this is Mark Rounds, and he's a teacher at Monarch School. And those were his students that you saw. And I want to say a couple things about Monarch School, and really what really even sold me more on esports. Once his team set up, once he was able to set up a team, Monarch School is very well known in the United States because it's one of the first schools to serve homeless students. And their students are, to go to that school, they have to be homeless. And they got a team together right away. And he provided them with a place to come after school and play. He allowed them to play often. They followed the NASAF structure. They competed with NASAF. And it was really, it opened students' eyes to a lot of careers and a lot of professions down the road that tied into esports that they never had before. So that was really kind of a cool thing. And the fact that I felt like if Mark's students could do this, any school could do it. And they had to get computers donated to them. The students didn't have computers at home. So they had a lot of barriers in front of them, but they were able to persevere and put this great club together that could compete in some really awesome tournaments. So, oh, and they also did some fundraising. So they got jerseys, school jerseys that are for their esports team. So again, it just pulled students together. So we went from tournaments to then creating the helping districts create their clubs, new districts, because a lot of them, the ones that had the clubs, didn't need our help. Okay, the other part we really spent a lot of time with is we had somebody on our campus by the name of Tyler Petro, and he worked in our ITS department, and he is a gamer. And I went to him and I said, Tyler, our districts are coming to us and they need to know how they could put together a gaming unit that's cheap and that they can do pretty easily. And he's like, how much would you spend? And I'm like, give me an $800 version of a gaming unit. And he's like, you got it. And so he went out and he priced things out and he came up with these different options that people could buy for gaming units. So we started at the county giving people advice on their PC builds and their gaming unit builds. So that was another component. And having an ally in your ITS department for this was really good. And I can't stress that enough. You want an ally in your ITS department, because if you have someone who's not into it, they're going to throw a lot of, you can't do that because, you can't do that because, you can't do that because. So you're going to get a lot of that. But having somebody like Tyler, who is a gamer, who stood behind it, having him come up and say, no, you can do it, and here's why, and here's how, it took a load of districts, and they were like, oh, we can do that. So we started helping them that PC build as well. And then also that ITS network support. So we wanted to make sure that that was there, because a lot of districts didn't know where to go. And they were like, well, what about the bandwidth? And then what about the firewall? And what about if there's a creeper on Discord, and, you know, Twitch is not safe, and all of these things would come up. And our ITS people were like, yes, but we can do this. And then also NASAF is great, because they have their own Discord, they have their own Twitch. And again, partnerships are so important, because through support from them, I was able to set up our own Discord and our own Twitch. And there was a period of time that I will admit, I started watching people play games a lot, so I could learn what was going on. And people would come into my office and I'd have Twitch on in the background, and they'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing my job. I'm learning this culture of esports. So again, those are things you need to, or you would like to get familiar with. Any questions so far? And Pam and Mishan, please feel free to hop in and say anything that you feel can add to this.
Well, I was just thinking of some of the impacts that we've heard from students, and who we've heard from partnerships. I know Mishan's working on a partnership for mentoring from Pepperdine, but there was a student there that Alicia and I were talking to, and she brought up the fact that, you know, she's been a gamer for a long time. And Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong, was she actually at Irvine for gaming, or was she just involved in their gaming? Or Pepperdine, I mean.
She's and we're going to talk about that in a minute. And she's at Pepperdine for she's pre-law.
Okay, yeah, and we just thought it was so interesting that, you know, here's someone who's very involved with the culture, and her pathway is not to go straight into what you would normally perceive as the gaming world. You know, she's looking at going into law, and she wants to do it, you know, esports law. We found that fascinating. She also talked about just staying connected with friends through gaming, and that I've seen that a lot with my own kids. That's why I said they're getting more into it. But my 18-year-old meets every day with her friends. That's how they're connecting right now when they can't be together with one another. And in seeing that ability to get online and share and really feel connected, when we talk about all these kids that, you know, schools are saying, well, we want to get them off the technology, we want to get them out of those things. Seeing them be able to make that human connection online, and yeah, I know it's not the same as face-to-face, but these are kids who are oftentimes, you know, the gamers, the kids that don't come to school for the competitions that are maybe your traditional sports, and they're finding teams, they're finding that connection with other people that are bringing them to the school. And that was one of the things the Monarch kids were saying. They had a reason now for connecting and for becoming involved. So I think Alicia just fell off. She'll be back. But, you know, I'm feeling like if my daughter, who's not a huge gamer, is finding that connection, that, you know, that's what we find when we start talking to districts and schools about students coming and making a connection to the school again, and all the positive things that come out of these esports teams. That's when we really start to see superintendents and teachers and other people begin to come more on board with the idea of having an esports team at their school. So, hi, Alicia.
Sorry, I got booted off. My internet's been kind of weird lately, so my apologies. Okay, so yes, now the next thing, was there a question? I'm sorry, I missed it and you answered it, Pam. Okay, so ITS supporting, so that was part of it. So now what we're going to talk about is the curriculum. So if you recall in our ecosystem, one of the things was curriculum. And this is really where Mishan, her heart and soul is in two places. One is curriculum. She's a great curriculum person. And she also is all about SEL, social and emotional learning. And so she partnered with our partners at NASAF to create good gaming curriculum. And so Mishan, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Originally, we started outlining all the things that we wanted to do and aligning the CASEL, which is the National Social Emotional Learning Framework. And we started aligning that to what it means to be a gamer and live in the gaming world. And so we found so many different social emotional characteristics that are needed to support a good gamer. But then we also created curriculum that supports not only just individual gamers, but also working within a team, starting off a team, working towards launching their own event. And prior to COVID, we actually started building it in Flipgrid so that it would be very easily shared anywhere. And we are actually, without a ton of marketing, we are getting lots of teachers and after school providers that are taking and utilizing the topics that we created in Flipgrid, and have lots of positive response from students who are able to learn from the curriculum that we created. So super exciting. And you'll find it under the NASEF label in Flipgrid if you go visit flipgrid.com.
And this is what it looks like. So you have the good gamer, you have the tactical teams, the creative competition. And I think those are the three that are active right now. And we wanted to make sure it was accessible and it was free. And our numbers are pretty good. People are going in, they're learning it, and schools use it in different ways. Unfortunately, because of COVID, it was kind of our hope that this would be used by our after school programs and they would do that. Students would be able to do that, but schools aren't using the after school programs right now. So we'll relaunch this probably next year in a way that it is more systematic. So it was really a cool thing, and it went along with that curriculum component that we're very interested in with our ecosystem. All right. The other thing that Pam kind of touched upon was mentoring, and that was kind of that pathway that we were thinking about. And a pathway became really important to us, and we wanted to do something a little different from that pipeline, that school to career pipeline where, somebody would maybe learn code, they would go work for Sony. So we wanted them to think a little bit outside that box of the typical, I want to be a gamer and I'm going to write code for games. So what we found when we partnered with Pepperdine is that we could put together curriculum for the mentors, the college mentors, that really has them thinking about how to be a good citizen in an online gaming community. We're talking about some of the stereotype, typical behavior that happens. There's some differences. So if there's some bullying that goes on in online communities and things like that, how to combat that. So part of that mentoring is goes along those lines. And that's really the first 4 months is really how to be a good gamer, how to be a good person in this community. But then the last part is, now that you're thinking about those things and we've set this great foundation about how to be a good gamer, now let's talk about what are some options for you when you get out of high school and if you want to go to college. And if you want to go to college, you don't have to just be, and you want to go in gaming, you just don't have to be a programmer. So as Pam brought up, we met somebody by the name of Grace, and she's a student at Pepperdine, and she's pre-law. And her goal is she wants to be a lawyer for these gaming companies. That's what she wants to do. So I'm assuming there's probably going to be some patent law in there and some other legalities that she'll study. We've also met people, full-time musicians, who they've gotten their MFA and they work for these gaming companies because there's music and sound and visual audio effects that go along with those gaming. So it's really opening students' eyes that if you love this, there are a lot of different options for you. And even if you love it and you're not going to be a professional gamer, like most of them won't be, you can still be 100% immersed in this community by going to college and doing something that you can make that your focus. And so that was really what we were thinking about when we partnered with Pepperdine, and we're rolling out this component of the gaming, of the ecosystem next month in January. So we're really excited about that, and we're working with some schools to do that. So that, and again, I do want to say, we kind of started this on our own, and then we quickly found we need help. And so we started working with NASAF on this as well. So I hope you're seeing this theme that very close to us in Southern California, we have a wealth of knowledge with an organization. So when you think of our ecosystem in San Diego County Office of Ed, that is really what we're doing. We're not 100% there yet. I'm assuming it's probably going to take us about 5 years to kind of get the whole system in place, but we're slowly but surely working on getting all of these components in place. So any questions or comments or discussions you would like to have about this? I'm going to stop my share. Okay. Anything Pam and Rashan, you two would like to add?
I was just going to ask the participants that are here, where are you all in your esports ecosystems?
Hey everyone, my name is Raul, and I am from San Diego as well, so it's nice to see all you ladies on here.
Where are you from, Raul?
I work for San Diego Innovation High School, so we're a charter school. And this year, or it was supposed to be this year, but obviously COVID happened, but we're planning on doing the club part of the esports and then kind of hopefully growing it to more of the academic side. So we were looking at the NASIF, the English stuff, and kind of like how to tie that into, you know, English 10 and 9 and all that stuff, because that's really more like, I feel that's like a good opportunity to have students kind of like see the benefit of, you know, gaming and how can it affect their education. So really, really excited to kind of get it all started once we kind of go back. But I guess the question I have for you guys is, like, for us, we don't necessarily have like gaming rigs set up. So how many would you think would be a good starting point?
So Raul, what I can recommend to you, like our Monarch School, they secured, I want to say 7, but they went through Computers to SD Kids, and Computers to SD Kids was able to donate the computers. So Computers to SD Kids is an organization in San Diego, and when a company does a refresh, a computer refresh, a lot of our San Diego companies donate their computers to them. And so they were able to take those computers and build those out for us for free. And so we were able to donate those to Monarch. And so if you're in San Diego County, I would highly suggest contacting them and seeing what they have for you.
And do you all use like laptops or Chromebooks, or are they all just actual like rigs?
They were rigs. They were
Okay.
PCs, and the reason is because the PCs could accommodate more sophisticated gaming. So in the high school, those students were really interested in taking it further, and so we wanted to make sure we were able to provide for them like that. But other schools have set up, and we've helped them set up the consoles. Unfortunately, right now, that's not helping our districts because the students aren't on site. But some schools are doing games. They're doing like Minecraft and things like that, where students don't necessarily need to have the full gaming console or the gaming computer system set up.
Got it. Yeah, I think we were planning on using consoles as well, but obviously with the whole thing that, not going into school, that kind of eliminated that option. But yeah, good to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, Raul. Thank you.
We've been hearing also that many students have the Nintendo Switch. And so, and the gaming clubs can with, it's a whole lot cheaper just to get kids involved in a club way. So that would be another thing that might get folks going, is looking at, devices that are like the Switch.
Other questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, Tim.
Okay, great. I've been doing video gaming and the Minecraft Education Edition for a few years. Right now, our challenge is that I'm at the school site, but all the kids are off site. And we're having a lot of trouble because of where I'm at, because we have this digital dome over me with our firewalls. So we can't play our Nintendo Switch game. We can't do League of Rocket League. We can't play Minecraft Education Edition and host a world. And I don't really want to leave the school and do that from home, because I teach technology as kind of a shop environment. So I'm trying to work with the district to get through that firewall challenge right now. And it's kind of a roadblock for us right now.
Yeah, that is a roadblock. And a lot of districts have said the exact same thing. And so it is education on the ITS side to kind of have those conversations with them.
I did talk to one teacher who was in a similar situation as you, Jim, and they just kept pestering and saying, look, this is what it does for kids. And especially right now when kids are feeling isolated and disconnected, we want to bring them back in. And however we can do that is essential.
Yeah, my district is supportive and my admin team is supportive. In fact, they approached me originally on getting this going. And they're making progress on it. Just kind of a slow process. Well, we got Epic Games whitelisted so we could connect with that, but now we can't actually do the gaming environment because we still have some blocks in there. So we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and then it's also good to look, I know like with Overwatch, you could, and it's very difficult, but if you could try to get a creator's code for that, and then that keeps it very, that closed environment. So those are the type of things that you want to look into. But again, sometimes getting those creator codes is like breaking into Fort Knox. You just cannot get them. But, another thing that you could do, and this is something that we've been encouraging students to do, especially during COVID, is to NASAF does their Friday night games and to have them join that. We like that because for us, we know it's going to be we know it's going to be a safe environment. We know students aren't going to, there's not going to be those creepers. It's not an open environment. So look for those safe areas that you can send your students to, and that way they can play at home. It is sanctioned. NASAF is part of the Orange County Department of Ed. So those type of things are things that you want to explore, because again, like getting those creator codes are very difficult. But I do think NASAF does have a creators code for Overwatch, so it does stay closed environment. And so I just look for those alternative ways where you don't have to always go through your school's bandwidth or your school's firewall, sorry. Other questions? So to get a hold of us, if you have any questions, I'll just give you mine. I'm A Butters. Actually, we could just put it in the chat for you all. Oops, I sent it privately to somebody. So abutters@sdcoe.net. And again, we don't have all the answers, but we are trying to create a system within San Diego County that makes sense and that always pulls it back to education. That's very important for us. Okay. So thank you. I appreciate you being here.
So if we don't have any other questions, I'd just like to take this time to thank our presenters. Thank you for sharing your expertise with all of our participants. Please know that all of our presentation materials are and will be available on the SCED app. We also welcome you to use SCED to provide feedback so we could continue to provide you with support you need for your esports program. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for coming.